Single Family Design Board meeting for June 3rd, 2024. Okay, perfect. We just started. We'll start with roll call.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with roll call. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay, our next item is public comment. This is for general public comment, not for one of the items on our agenda today. I know we did receive a posted one. Any other?
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. We did receive written correspondence from Mr. Bernie Bernstein. However, I do not have any slips for public comment today. If anyone wishes to make a public comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. And let me check virtual comment to see if there are any hands raised. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised for virtual public comment. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
All right, thank you. The public comment that we did receive had to do with FAR, which we do utilize, but it's not a requirement. It's a tool to help us in our decision. So I just wanted to address that. Our next item is approval of the minutes from May 20th. That looks good so far. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, I'll move to approve the minutes for May 20th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, we can take a roll call.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Whoever wants it.
All right, roll call. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and now approval of the consent calendar for May 28th. Looks good. Mhm. Oh, if it's just 2 is copied twice in the first item. For item 2, if you can say the board can support instead of supports. Okay, you can keep going. Okay, I move to approve the minutes for the consent calendar on May 28th.
I'll second that.
We'll do a roll call.
Okay, roll call. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Abstain,
Okay.
because I
motion-
had an item on the agenda.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, now for the consent calendar today, June 3rd.
Okay, this was gnarly, guys, so, and I'm a slow reader, I apologize, but I'll do my best to read fast. Oh, we got a different, cool, we're retro.
Yeah, so staff was still reviewing the draft at the time, so we're just looking at it through the Word document. But if there's any issues with it or you want something reworded, just let us know. Thank you.
Okay.
I was like, you can change
Yeah,
that.
apologies. That was for full board, yeah. Thank you, guys. Okay. Oh,
Okay, what was this one? Okay, yes, this was patio. Okay, keep going, yeah. Like, what was it? The design on the second floor patio is consistent with it. Okay, perfect. The running amount, size of the existing home and quality architectural have been provided and be in with the, and tie in with the existing finishes, okay? With the existing. Is that just the same comment on 3? Or do we need to, like, just start a new sentence, maybe the existing 25, 30-foot high hedges along the driveway provide privacy? It just needs to be kind of wordsmithed a little bit there. There is minimal impact with the patio and kitchen remodel from, yeah. I would just say there is on that 4th item too. Okay, Jorgensen was, okay, the hillside. And we already approved the MCE. The granting of such as would not the enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood. The board approves the MCE of the trash code in the front yard as it is tied in with the design and faces the interior auto court that is not visible from the street and 22-foot. Okay, the improvements at the site such as minimal impact of it. Thank you. Are cited such that they minimize impact next to abutting properties. The applicant has provided 5-point pattern. So the 5-point pattern was for the stone. Yeah, the Santa Barbara sandstone. I just add that.
Word Santa Barbara. Sandstone.
Has provided details. Of the Santa Barbara sandstone with 5-point pattern, something like that. The project generally complies with privacy, landscaping, and a single-family node. Okay. I don't think I really need to go through the NPA, though I did add some comments there. Oh, that maximum height is 722 feet.
Okay.
They're proposing. All right. Lights are night sky compliant. Recess architecture feature. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. Pedregosa. Okay, this one's easier. The board approves a modification on the Okay. Yes. Yay. Okay. Oh, yeah, this one was a little more complicated.
Before you move on to the next item, we might want to say the board is in support of the modifications because we don't approve modifications. So just a
I learned recently
wordsmithing
at consent that
thing.
we do in some instances.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Neither did I.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know we could approve modifications on the consent level. Okay.
So am I leaving it or changing it?
If the approval was made at the meeting, then yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for clarification, I think the word approves in this sense and context could be applicable even if it's not an actual approval. The approval could have been done by the staff hearing officer at show. So approval by the design board in this instance and context would just say that the board is okay with the modification in terms of design as well. So I don't think there's any
That's why I
confusion
said
here.
support.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't want to, like, just saying okay, it's kind of not something we would write in the minutes. So it's up to you. I don't care.
I don't remember where that was, but Joni probably will. Yeah, supports is a little more intellectual. All right, so we're on item 4, I think, or 5? Remeto, yeah. Agrees with the previous review and appreciates the applicant clarifications. Okay, yeah, that second one, I would just, you don't have to repeat, maybe you provide accurate and coordinated drawings and just end it after covered breezeway. That was just one example of some coordination items. Review preliminary comments in coordination with structural engineer to make sure or verify feasibility of proposal. Can simplify that. The board would like to see all 4 elevations of all 4 trash enclosure of the trash enclosure and garage. So just of the instead of all. The board would like to see all 4 elevations of the 4 trash enclosure. And trash enclosure is just singular. And item 5 and 6 are combined. The board would like to see further study of the pool equipment and continued conversation with the neighbor. Review the front addition roofing. The board, it's not really the board, but the board member. Consider the finished materials around exterior storage unit and provide additional drawings. Okay, that's fine. He knows what we're talking about.
Do I make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the June 3rd consent minutes.
Second. We do a roll call?
Yes. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, we will move to announcements. We'll start with staff.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to announce, just as I did at the last full board hearing, is that we still currently have an open special recruitment, and the deadline for online submittal is June 5th. So that's this week. Applicants will be interviewed and appointments also made at the city council hearing on June 11th. So if you're interested or know anybody who's interested, you can point them to me or other design review staff or to any of the board members, and we'll be in touch. I also wanted to make a note that we do have an appeal hearing on June 6th for a consent item for 1269 Forello Road for final approval. Board member Friday has volunteered her time, and so she's going to be present at that planning commission hearing. The other item.
Quick interjection.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, have we received any applicants for the 2 open slots?
We currently have 4 current applications in.
Okay.
I believe some of them were continued from the initial round of interviews, and so we're hoping that people do attend the interview spot that we have open on June 11th.
Some of them are applicants from the prior
Correct.
period from last year?
From
Last
the
fall.
most recent opening and also from last year, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe we have at least 2 new ones that have
Okay.
applied.
Okay.
Yeah, currently we have 4 applications in. so,
Okay, great,
total.
thank you.
Okay, and then that's an appeal period. And then item number 5 on the agenda today has been continued indefinitely by the applicant. So that's 1215 High Ridge Lane. So if anybody's here listening or here in the audience for 1215 High Ridge Lane, that has been continued indefinitely and will not be heard today. And I think also my last announcement is I believe board member Anderson has an announcement to make, and then I can hand it off to Chair Lewis after that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been almost 2 years, if you can believe how time flies. But yes, I'm stepping down. This is my last full board meeting, and love all the power women and everybody. And what? You don't have poker face, Dawn. It's primarily economic, you know. I mean, I'm all about community and contribution, but I just, as a sole proprietor, primarily can't afford the time. So, Susan, come on board. No. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we do want to offer this resolution. I'm going to read it out to you. But we all thank you very much for your service. And we are very excited to welcome in new board members and to let your legacy continue. It's true. It's true. It's a big time commitment to be here and to volunteer. And we thank you for that. So this is a resolution of recognition for the Single-Family Design Board member Laura Lee Anderson, whereas Laura Lee served with distinction to preserve and enhance Santa Barbara's natural charm and beauty by offering her unparalleled expertise and compassionate guidance for every project. Whereas Laura Lee demonstrated passion for architecture and the city by maintaining high design standards through well-informed, constructive, and relevant guidance. Whereas Laura Lee displayed her commitment to the well-being of the city's neighborhoods by resolute preparation for every hearing and leveraging her professional and understanding of working drawings and architectural design. Whereas Laura Lee exhibited a high degree of sympathy for the community, architects, homeowners, and contractors alike in every hearing to promote the general public welfare in all its facets. Whereas Laura Lee served 2 years and was a strong supportive vice chair who showed unwavering dedication to the betterment of the city and inspired the community and the board members alike. Thank you.
Thank you. That's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have one other announcement, which is that the Pearl Chase Society is hosting an event this Friday at 5:30 at the Alacama Theater, and it is a presentation with both the past chair of the Single Family Design Board, Leslie Kalass, and Cass Ensberg, who's an architect on HLC, and they'll be talking about preserving architecture in Santa Barbara and different perspectives of approaching Santa Barbara's history. Any other announcements from the board? Okay, we will move on to the first item, which is here for concept review. It's a continued item, 209 Mohawk Road. This is a proposal to construct a two-story detached accessory building consisting of a 470 square foot first floor, two-car garage, a 230 square foot first floor workshop, and a 762 square foot second story one bedroom accessory dwelling unit, including a 68 square foot second story balcony, a 249 square foot roof deck, an exterior ingress egress stairs. The project is associated with an existing 2,043 square foot one-story single-unit residence, including a 400 square foot unfinished basement. The proposal includes retaining an as-built 76 square foot lanai in the rear of the parcel. This site is located on the coastal non-appealable jurisdiction and requires staff hearing officer review and an approval of the coastal development permit for the proposed ADU. A ministerial coastal exemption is required for the garage, workshop, and improvements to the existing single-unit residence. The proposed total of 3,905 square feet of development on an 11,625 square foot lot is 99% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. No final appealable decision will take place at today's hearing. This project was last reviewed on April 8th, which I believe all other board members were present for. I did watch the recording as well. We'll start with staff, and then if you guys can introduce yourself and make sure your microphones are on, and to make sure to go through any of the previous minutes in your presentation.
Thanks, Chair Lewis, board members. It's Holly Garson, Assistant Planner. We have been here once before with this project, so we're back today just to receive some positive comments to take on to the staff hearing officer for the listed land use decisions. And then after the staff hearing officer coastal development permit announcement, the project will return to the board for project design approval and final approval. So if you could just consider comments to do specifically with the ADU and its aesthetic appropriateness to the site. Thank you. Here for questions.
Okay, hi, I'm Susan Sherwin, I'm the architect, and this is Dan Miller-Smith, who's the owner of the project.
Hi, great to meet you all.
Is it on? You have to push that button.
I think it's on.
If you press push, there you go.
Now you're on.
Testing.
Yeah.
Hi, all. Great to meet you.
Great. Okay, so do we have minutes? I think,
They should be the second tab at the top of the PDF.
okay, here we go. Okay, so in general, you support the size, bulk, scale of the project, and then we are sort of ignoring the unusable basement in terms of FAR. So the main things I think were studying the spiral stair, which I admit is an unusual addition to a craftsman home. However, is the only thing that fits in the setback. And so I have tried to create a screening element here that is in, hopefully in sympathy with the design of the ADU garage structure. I'm going to zip down to here. So these are existing elevations of the home, which are not changing. And then these are the new proposed elevations with this screening element, which is sort of a slatted screen, and fits within the setback. I think the other comment we had was studying the incorporation of some additional architectural details. And I have added all these corbels, which are the same design as the original house, because I have those original house plans. And so I've added those corbels around. I looked at making this a bay window, but it felt a little clunky. And I also looked at putting a roof with corbels over this little garage, but that also felt like it was getting in the way of lighting. And anyway, so this is what I've done. Let's see, what other things? Additional information, views. Okay, this is the last thing. So let me skip down to these photos. These are the photos of the existing site, and this is the location of the proposed garage and ADU. in the back of the yard, and here it is way back here at the end of the driveway. So these are photos taken, how did Gabe get these photos exactly?
From pulling in a Sprinter van and putting a ladder on top.
Okay, so basically the location, so it would be essentially right next to this, this storage container that's getting removed. And so this is the residence to the south, or or is it west? It's to the, towards the ocean. And so that's the residence, this is the container, this is their backyard. I can sort of zoom in on these maybe. This is their backyard. And then as we kind of go around, this is like all screening vegetation that's sort of in the corner. There's quite a bit of bamboo, palms, and other vegetation that's there. And then this is looking towards the neighbor behind the property. They have also some sort of a storage container in their backyard and some sort of a greenhouse that is going, so the residence is way back here. And then this was just a key sort of showing where each photo was taken. And this is looking towards the north from the, no, I'm sorry, this is looking towards the, yeah, it's looking towards the north from the site of the, what would be the ADU and garage. So there's, you can see there's a lot of vegetation towards that direction as well. And this is, right here would be the site of the garage. So you can see that there is all this vegetation in existence here, bamboo and other stuff. And a similar photo showing existing vegetation. So that gives you an idea, at least, of the impact of this roof deck and stair, and how visible it would be. I think that answers most of the comments from last time. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Just if I may for a moment clarify with the applicant, was the roof deck also reduced slightly in size?
Yes, we did reduce the roof deck slightly in size, and that was partially just to kind of pull back the things, and also an exiting thing with the spiral stair from, yes, so that was.
Is that the only thing that changed since the last time we reviewed, or do you want to show us anything else on the drawings that changed?
Besides the things that I, adding that screen, adding the corbels and stuff onto the elevations, that was, yeah, that's the only thing that's changed in terms of size or bulk of any item.
Okay. All right, we'll open it up to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so. We will move on to virtual public comment. I do not see any hands raised for virtual public comment, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this particular item. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, thank you. We will start with questions. Does anyone on the board want to start? No. Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to double check the side yard setback from the roof deck, because I just didn't see it. I saw the 12'5" on the back. And then you didn't, all the landscaping is existing. There isn't any additional new landscaping proposed.
Correct. Okay, are we getting to somewhere here? There's going to be.
Those were my only questions, but I mean, amazing on our win-win solutions. I appreciate all of the work that you've done to respond to our comments.
Right, okay, so I don't see that I have it from this side, but you can see it's 11'7" here, and that's probably another 6 feet.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like 17. Okay, thanks.
And then just checking, did you already talk to the staff hearing officer? Did they already review this? Or are you coming
No.
back here for this? Okay, got it. Well, I was rereading the minutes, said that it could have gone, those comments, okay. Okay. And then the railing, are those the kind of divot shape, is that something to match existing on the main house?
Yes, that sort of cloud lift design is a railing that's on the main house, and so I'm
Perfect.
trying to incorporate that in a few places just to tie things in, and it's a pretty detail.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll move to comments.
I just have one. I prefer the spiral staircase without the screen.
We had that choice last time. Yes, but yes.
I didn't, I think my comment last time was about the code compliance, because I was afraid you weren't going to make the minimum tread width 12 inches out, and that's why I made that comment, but.
Yeah, I do have it.
I don't think that, I don't remember having an issue with the spiral staircase necessarily, but at least maybe I didn't know, I didn't like it until the screen until I saw it. But I prefer it without, yeah.
Yeah, I do think that it adds a level of bulk to it. But I think I could be swayed either way on it. The materials mix in well, and as long as there's enough kind of visibility through it, and it doesn't feel as solid, and maybe we can look at that at PDA.
I agree. I don't have a strong opinion with or without it. Overall, appreciate all of the updates. I like that you added some of the details from the main residence, and I think it's a great project.
And I don't think the elevations represent the screening well, but to me, I was just like, wow, that's great, because spiral stair and the arts and crafts doesn't really tie to me. So I was super happy with what you proposed. Again, I think it's just not represented on the elevations, but if you detail it like you're going to detail it, it's going to tie right in, and then add that additional privacy, which that adjacent neighbors will appreciate. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, all positive for me.
Great. Then I'm curious, are you wanting it completely removed or open to seeing development during
if they
PDA?
want it, and I agree with Laura Lee's reasons why it's beneficial, because it does provide the privacy as you're going up there. I agree with that. And you can't really see it from anywhere, so it doesn't,
No.
and it is kind of in keeping better than the spiral staircase, just exposed. So I'm okay with leaving it. I had one additional comment I forgot to mention. It's kind of a question comment, and you have a belly band on the top between the 2 stories, and the siding just doesn't, it's horizontal siding, so instead of just carrying it through 2 stories, you've chosen to put a band around it. I was just wondering why. Usually,
I don't think I actually do.
I think it's the
those
dash
those
Is it
are
the
just
dash
the dash
lines?
lines
Okay,
that are
good.
just designating the,
Good.
yeah,
because I think that it would look better if the horizontal siding just
just
continued all
continued
the
up.
way up.
And it
Okay.
does, yes.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I would like to move the project, or continue the project indefinitely to full board. Okay, let's think about that. Or
I
do
know,
we want to go to
yeah.
consent,
Do you want to
potentially?
take a straw poll for consent review?
Yeah, we probably could just go to consent for PDA and final. I mean.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think we
Same.
just need to make
Same.
comments about the ADU, right, Holly?
Right, right. Okay, so I would move to continue the project indefinitely to consent, to the consent calendar. And, yes, and show staff, but for project design approval and final at the same time, with the following positive comments. I didn't organize my comments, but, oh geez. Let's, Okay, you're going to have to give me a minute, or someone else
Yeah,
can jump
I
in.
will. The ADU detailing matches the craftsman style of the main house and incorporates corbel details. The board appreciates incorporating these details into the craftsman style. The board is open to screening the spiral stair in a way that complements the craftsman style and provides privacy, and is open to seeing the designs during PDA. The board also looks forward to seeing material palettes.
We might also want to call out the deck and the distance and why we find that appropriate.
The board supports the roof deck and finds the distance from the side yards supportable at more than 15 feet. And the photos highlighting privacy, it doesn't seem like a privacy concern to the neighbors. And the board appreciates the reduced floor area of the roof deck.
I'm not sure who the maker of the motion is at this point, but I will
I'll
second
be
that
the maker.
motion.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move to our next item. This is a new item here for concept review, 2503 Medcliff Road. This is a proposal to add a 1,407 square foot one-story addition to a one-story single-unit residence with an attached two-car garage on a 28,015 square foot site to remove a non-native Brazilian pepper tree and 4 eucalyptus trees to be replaced with 5 western redbud trees, the removal of an as-built wood deck and wood fencing. The proposed total of 3,766 square feet on a 28,015 square foot lot is 79% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. The Planning Commission review and approval of the coastal development permit is required. Neighborhood Preservation and Hillside Design District and slope lot findings will be required for PDA. No final appealable decision will be made today. Any staff comments?
Yes, so unfortunately, the case planner is not in today, but she did, Pilar Plummer is the case planner for this project. She left me some notes to read out, so I'll do that now. So the project involves a one-story addition to an existing single-unit residence and other improvements, including tree removal and replacement. As the project is in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, a coastal development permit is required. And so we are looking for positive feedback and a continuance to the Planning Commission for review of the coastal development permit, provided they are generally comfortable with the design. The board is generally comfortable with the design. If possible, the board should note how the project is generally consistent with the Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance findings, though you don't have to make the specific findings at the hearing today, of course. And once that is completed, the project will return to the SFDB for project design approval and final approval. Great.
And then I just want to share that I have to recuse myself for perceived conflict of interest as I own property across the street from this residence.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So if you can make sure your microphone is on, it looks like it might be, and state your name, and then you'll have 15 minutes to go through your presentation. You also have a tab on here, I don't know if he told you, on the computer over here.
Should I sit over here?
Probably, that might be best. There's a tab on there with photos, and then your drawing set is on the first tab.
Hi, my name is Ken Unger. I am the owner of this property, and I also happen to be an architect. So I designed the addition. Do you want me to get into my description of the project from our standpoint? Basically, if you look at the site plan, the existing residence is an L-shaped house. And in the context of the community and the location and the surrounding context, we tried to minimize the impact of our addition on property and the surroundings by doing a one-story addition to the house and creating what was an L and almost like a U, creating kind of an old courtyard-style house. In, one could look at an old Santa Barbara architectural design, like a courtyard house where you walk in and you're still outside, and then you come in the main entry. So I have discussed the remodel and addition with both my neighbors on each side, and they're both supportive. And I've discussed my project with my neighbor who's building across the street, and she seems to be supportive as well. Again, we were trying to do a small addition and revamp the house to the point where it was brought up to date by today's standards in terms of egress and access to the property and the yard, but at the same time maintain sensitivity to my surroundings by keeping it low scale.
If you want to keep walking us through
Sure.
your drawings, that would be helpful.
So basically, if you look at the front, on the left here, that's the garage as it exists now. We're replacing the siding, which is probably 60 years old now, with Santa Barbara stone. I tried to keep the material palette neutral in color, and also tried to keep it in the context of using materials that are locally sourced, the stone being the main element with that in mind. Here you can see the existing floor plan of the house with the L shape that I described. And then here you can see the addition on the one side to make it kind of a U. Here you can see in the front elevation, the existing garage is pretty much staying as it is, and we created almost this stone access portal to the courtyard, and that stone will continue on the side to the rest of the front of the house. And there you can see a few sections and other elevations. This is the south side is facing the view side. But generally, if you look at it from the front, which is what the public will see, this is what you'll see.
Okay, and then can you walk us through your site photos?
My site photos.
I think they're the second tab.
Oh, the second tab. Okay, here we go, sorry. I'm just, are they not coming up?
Oh, there's a mouse too, that might be easier.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, here we go. So here is the front. No, this is actually the rear, sorry. This is the rear of the property. And our yard, this side faces the ocean. You can see that siding is original. I think the house was built in 1950 and has not really been, that's my son,
Yeah.
has not really been touched, at least from the exterior standpoint, in a long time. We've owned the house for about 13 years now. This is the front, this is the L, you can see on the end, that'll be surrounded on the right side with the addition to make it kind of a little courtyard. Same view, same view. This is the front, this is the garage that you saw that we're converting from the siding to the stone.
Okay, great. We'll move to public comment now.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will move on to virtual public comment. And at this time, I see no hands raised for this particular item. So we did not receive any written correspondence for this item as well. At that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, we'll start with questions. Board Member Sherry, do you want to start?
Yeah, I have a few questions. The trees that can you walk us through the trees that you're removing
Sure,
and replacing and where they are and what they are?
Yeah, you can see this, let me go back to the site photos here. This is the pepper tree that is above us here in this photograph. It's up against the garage right now, and it's, let me see if I have another photograph of it. Not sure, no, we don't have another photograph of it, but right now it's,
Maybe on your site plan?
yeah, sure. Okay, so that pepper tree is right here. And it's already destroying the foundation of the garage.
Okay.
And it needs to be removed regardless of whether we're doing an addition or not, because it's destroying the garage. But we are planning on replacing all trees that we're moving with, I forget what, with other trees, with new trees. And out here on the hillside, it's not really on the hillside, it's sort of where the bluff starts to drop down. There was a number of eucalyptus trees, 3 of which have already fallen on their own from the last 2 seasons of rain. So these 2 here are already gone. They've already fallen. So we are actually asking now just to remove this one over here, which is going to fall also, and this one over here. They're both leaning out over the hillside. They're a hazard. They could fall down onto the beach and really hurt somebody. Number 1. Number 2, they're not an indigenous plant. Number 3, the root ball, I don't know if you know, it's very, very small. And it was very interesting when we saw it fall, how much actually came out of the ground. Very little. So, one might think that the eucalyptus tree is stabilizing the hillside, when in fact I think it's the opposite.
So wait, sorry, can you show again where the 5 western red bud trees are going? The new trees?
Let me see here. They are, let's see here. Can I scale this up a little bit?
Yeah, through Chair Lewis to the applicant, it is all, the screen, the laptop itself is touch screen, so you can pinch and zoom like you're on your phone as well.
Okay,
Yep,
alright,
there you
okay.
go.
We were going to put them out in the front part of the yard. I don't know that it's actually shown on this drawing.
Okay, we'll make a note of
Yeah.
that. Okay.
We were going to put them out here to kind of help camouflage the front of the property.
Okay.
Can you point out the removal of where's the as-built deck and fencing that you're
Yeah,
removing?
these were, when we bought the property, these were items that were there originally. And let me scale down, sorry. It's this existing deck is right here.
Oh, right there, okay.
And the fence, some of it's already gone because of the rains, it's fallen. But this is the existing fence, it's going to be removed as well.
And do you have any photos of the neighbors?
I don't. The neighbor to my south had a house just like this, and they did a remodel, an addition similar to this. They took an L and made it a U. A U. And the neighbor to my north, all these houses were built by the same builder. It still exists.
You want some water?
I know we have some over here.
I have a few more questions.
That's good.
Okay. And what's the proposed roofing?
The proposed roofing is going to be a standing seam metal.
And so there's, if, maybe go to the front elevation and I can ask my question better. So, because you're showing the stone veneer
Yes.
just kind of going,
I'll show you on the floor plan.
No, show me the elevation.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
what I
okay.
wanted to see.
Sure, sure.
I wanted to point out my question on the elevation. So you're basically building a parapet in front of the existing, and the standing seam is behind it.
Correct.
And then the roofing for the rest of the whole house is, the flat roof is like a PVC single membrane roofing?
Correct.
And then the gable behind, that existing gable, is just going to be the same kind of overhang?
Correct. Well, that we're showing a rake
I mean, a
on.
regular
Right.
traditional overhang? Okay.
Basically, the front, the reason it's different is because I had that stone wall and I
Got
wanted
it.
to carry it all the way up.
And then can you go to the east elevation?
Sure. Okay.
The east elevation at what I'm looking for is the thickness of the stone parapet, and is it just,
Oh, right, okay. You can see it right here. Oh, no, that's not, sorry, that's the other
the
side. sorry.
west elevation?
Right, right.
The east elevation is where you would be able to see the thickness of that stone. That's what I'm looking
Right.
to see what it looks like.
Understood. Let me go down here. There, you can see it there, right here.
So where is it on the east elevation? You'd see the same thing on the east?
Right, you'd see the same thing on the side of the garage.
Right, so can I just see the east elevation?
Yeah, sure.
I can't move my screen around to look at it. The east.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, got
Right,
it.
it's that-
I
that-
understand
it's
that
in the
now.
front.
And
Here,
then.
it's right here, yeah.
Is it, what kind of pattern are you proposing on that stone?
Random.
Random, like 5-point or just, just
I mean, no,
not
actually,
ashlar, not dry stack, not horizontal, vertical lines, just more of a,
it's,
rough.
you buy the stone and it comes with a predetermined pattern that we're gonna,
oh, it's like El Dorado stone?
no, it's gonna be real Santa Barbara stone.
Real Santa
Yeah,
Barbara
yeah.
sandstone, okay. Okay, so you're buying like you said it comes
It comes, you can buy it in a predetermined pattern, right? That's not, it's, when I say random, I mean, it's not gonna be linear like this. It's
Right.
gonna be some larger, some smaller, all put
Okay.
together in this pattern.
okay, and grouted, dry stack?
No, it's gonna be dry stack.
Dry stack,
Yeah.
okay, well, we can. And then there, on the front elevation, I noticed that you had a couple of headers that were different heights.
Yes.
That was intentional, right? Like you brought the,
Are you talking about above the openings here?
well, yeah, like the garage elevation header and the front door and that number 4 note, which is the front window, those are all at different header heights, so just wondering why, it was just out of curiosity.
Well, the garage door is existing, so I'm kept keeping that height as it is. And then when I go into the remodeled area, I raise it up a little bit.
Raise it up. And then you wanted that look of the other window going all the way to the overhang.
Correct.
Okay. And then if it's real sandstone, then are you going to propose a lintel over the garage door and all the openings to support the wood?
Generally, we take the stone over the openings and we turn it vertical. It
Oh,
might not,
so-
might not show on the drawing, so it'd be like a soldier course almost.
So it won't be random. It'll
Above
have a-
above the openings, it'll be
Okay.
a soldier course,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Yes, sorry, because, yeah, I had the double, so I ran out of time. So on the exterior finishes, so you're replacing the entire home's exterior finishes and roof, doors and windows?
Yes.
Any further information on doors and windows? And then I'm putting together that the rest of the home, besides the front gables, it's a flat roof.
Part of it's going to be flat, but part of it is existing that we're maintaining, yeah.
Okay, maybe we can go to the roof plan real
Sure.
quick?
Sorry. Here.
So the gables are just on
So here you have the gables, and then here you have the flat on the other side.
Okay, with a parapet, and that's PVC.
It's actually not a parapet over here, it's just an overhang. It's an eave that cantilevers out.
Okay, but that's all flat part
Right.
in the back,
Correct.
and then the L is flat as well,
This area here is flat, correct?
or your addition, excuse
Correct.
me.
Yeah.
Okay, and then your plate heights are matching existing, or what are
In
you
the,
doing with plate?
in this portion of the existing house, we're maintaining existing plate heights, and the back part of the house, we're raising it up.
2,
Looks like 12.6, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes. 12.6.
so existing is 9, and then proposed is 12.6?
Yeah, just in the back, right.
Okay, for the single story. Okay, and then, I think I got all your finishes proposed. Then I'm just kind of back on the site context. Now, your site sits back from the street, so
Right.
we're not seeing a whole lot. Do you have any real, like, further blown out Google image or something so you can give us a little bit better site context of your property?
I don't have anything on this. I have a smaller site plan which shows the whole property, if you look right here.
Okay,
You
yeah,
can
oh, there
see.
you go. That's,
It's a private, here's Medcliff, it's a private drive that winds around. Here's the existing L-shaped house here, here's the yard, and
Right.
then the bluff goes down to the ocean.
okay, and is there another neighbor beyond that drive?
This direction? No. Yes, there's a neighbor here to plan above me here.
Okay.
That's where the private driveway ends, and there's a neighbor here on this side of me as well. And
And
these are
you-
my two neighbors that I've showed the plans to.
Okay, and you're showing a little bit of the structure of the north neighbor there, I'm assuming, or whatever, no, you got north to the left, so,
Let me see here.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
that might be part of their structure.
Okay, what about the south or the lower, because that's where
This
your
property down
addition-
here?
Yes.
Their property is.
We typically like to see the
Yeah.
adjacent neighbor
Got it.
footprints, so we
Under-
can,
Understood. Their property is about the same distance back from the bluff as ours is, and their property is also an L-shaped house, but it goes like this, L like this.
okay. Okay. All right, those are my questions.
Do you know approximately how tall the rear elevations are of your two neighbors?
I can tell you that the site kind of slopes up a little bit. So this property here is probably a couple feet in grade higher than ours. And their house their existing house is a little bit larger than our existing house.
Okay.
So their gables are a little bit taller. So I would guesstimate that they're probably 4 or 5 or 6 feet taller than us. And my neighbor, I can verify this. And my neighbor on this side of me, when they did their remodel, they made their house taller as well.
Okay. We'll move to comments now. I think generally a one-story addition feels very reasonable and keeping the heights. Similarly, I think one of the ones, there's some information, I think, in order to definitely give PDA that we're going to need. And it's tricky because you're back on this private drive, so there are some kind of things we'd normally like to see context-wise in the neighborhood, but you don't quite fit into that. You're kind of in your own separate. So when we think of what's neighborhood context, a lot of this is going to be from the water view. But I still think it would be nice to have context within your little drive. of what those other neighbors' houses look like so that we can give our
I can do that, yeah,
support of
sure.
that. The other that I think would be helpful is a site section. And I think it can be a rough topography as it goes down towards the ocean, but I think that will also help us evaluate the height. This is a tall plate height on the back
We
side.
had to do that section for the bluff study.
Right,
so we-
okay,
we
you have
that,
it.
yeah.
I think it would also be helpful for us to know approximately whether it's in a line weight silhouette or something that shows how tall your neighboring houses are to support that tall back, but I'd like to hear what the board thinks about that as well. I do think we'll need an updated landscape plan to see where those trees are going, but also if any other landscape is proposed and any landscape lighting. I would like to see photos of the existing fence and deck that are being removed and an understanding of what's happening in the landscape in that area now that the trees are being removed as well. In my opinion, there's a lot of glass being proposed, but I'm not fully against it, but I'd like to hear, on that rear elevation, it's a stunning view. And I think detailing of your front walls are going to be very important. I think board member Sherry spoke to a lot of those questions that we're going to have about it, which is how does this terminate as it sticks out as a parapet? What happens at that top of the wall? What happens at the headers? In my mind, I do like a lot of alignment. So whether the entrance into the courtyard could align with the window next to it or the garage door, my gut is saying with the window height above it. But when you're showing the detail with the lintels, if it makes sense with some sort of alignment and detailing. I'm curious the board's thoughts on the parapet and the floating kind of eyebrow that sticks out above the windows. And those are my current comments. Board Member Sherry, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for pointing out, making comments out of my questions. That was cool. Because basically, it's going to come down to the detailing, and it could be a really cool house if the details are well executed, and there's some challenging details with how you handle, like that soldier run you were talking about over the headers, how that window that comes to the direct underside of that metal fascia is going to be detailed out because around the corner on the west elevation there is a window underneath an awning slightly, but it's not brought up to and doesn't relate to the fascia, and so the details are going to really make this house, and it's going to be great to see those come back, and I agree with everything else you said, that we just got to see photos and neighboring properties and for context, and to show the trees. I agree with all those comments.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair Lewis, but I also wanted to float in front of the board if they'd be willing to continue this project after it goes to the Planning Commission. If you could continue it to consent, or if you would like it before the full board. Just wanted you to consider that as well.
I think I would like to see it at the full board so that there's enough other comments and consideration on this, since it is a unique property or design for it, at least for the next one.
Can you, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not
Yeah,
that familiar with
that's
Santa
okay.
Barbara. Can you explain to me
So
what you just said?
yeah, so our full board meetings happen like this every other week. Consent
Okay.
happens every week,
Okay.
and it's just one of us present. And
Okay.
typically smaller projects, or once we have enough board agreement on something, then just one of us will review it, and it you're able to get your reviews a little bit faster than getting on our full board agenda.
That's called the consent.
That's the consent calendar. So the item that was before you, we had general agreement. We had already seen the project once before, so we felt comfortable moving that to consent.
Okay.
With this one, I think because it's currently not typical for the neighborhood, and we have to find neighborhood preservation findings at your next hearing, I think I'd feel most comfortable with multiple people being able to weigh in.
When you say it's not consistent with the neighborhood, what does that mean?
That means the project that you currently have is existing. The architectural language of it is
Yes.
more common in the neighborhood. This transition with the architectural features
You're
are
talking about
somewhat
design.
new.
Okay.
Exactly. And so when we have to prove that it's compatible, part of that is why we want to see photos of the other homes in the neighborhood so that we can support it. I think both board member and I almost said Anderson, you're Sherry, and we can see support happening, but really want to see these details and understand with the neighbor so that we can give you the PDA.
When you say neighbor photos, are you referring just to my two adjacent neighbors, or are you referring to just neighbors in general
I
in the
think
area?
we have to identify what your neighborhood is, which is tricky for you because you're not facing your main street. And I want us to discuss this. It's normally your 20 closest homes.
Okay.
I want our board to decide, is that, and I've got Google Maps up on here, is that, the homes along this private drive, is this us wanting to see anything on Medcliff? And so that's what we'll decide. This is the private drive. It could include homes there, just some site photos for us to determine the compatibility of the size, bulk, and scale, and materiality, and things like that. Okay, we'll continue with comments. So Board Member Anderson.
Yeah, I think in the guidelines too, it just basically centers the residents and then does a radius, the 20 closest homes. So whether that's really applicable or not for this project, maybe it's difficult and we would need some across the street just to try to get that context, because it doesn't, the guidelines or code isn't always applicable on every project. So I would feel some across the street as well, because that,
Across on Medcliff?
yeah, I don't know if we're still in that discussion of the.
No, I think that's open for both of us to, I don't think that it needs to include Medcliff because it's not visible from Medcliff. I would rather see the backsides of any of these homes, but I'm curious.
Just
your
any
thoughts.
photos around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just drive around.
Yeah.
Just drive your private drive, and then even on Medcliff, just anything.
Snap
Because
some
right now,
pics.
we just can't even
Okay.
see anything that's going on because there's no photos.
Yeah.
And when you're down on the beach, you can't really see any of these houses. When
Yeah,
you
but
look
that's a
up.
good view. If you've got a photo of that, that's helpful, yeah. Okay, any other comments
You
on
can, the only thing you can see when you look up is what remains of the trees.
Okay,
Yeah, and I agree with Miss Jennifer and Miss Dawn's comments. I'm a little more familiar just with the English cottage and that facade architecture. I think you're headed down a more contemporary, modern, overall kind of a feel. So I'm comfortable with what you got going on. On that front gable facade. But yes, the details and aligning windows and doors, which you'll get into, and you're a professional, so I trust that you're going to work it all out and come back with a spectacular design for us.
for staff, the planning commission, I want to make sure that the comments that we provide are helpful for them while also knowing that we need further design comments.
So I was about to request that clarification as well, because for this project, it needs to be continued to the planning commission for review of the coastal development permit, meaning that if you guys are satisfied with the design as it currently stands, we could continue the project as it is to PC, to the planning commission, or you can continue the project back to here again before sending it off to
So for
planning
them, are they
commission.
more concerned, if we're generally in agreement of like the footprint and things like that, but mostly want to see the details and some more landscape?
I believe that could be addressed when this project comes back for project design approval
Right,
and
but-
final approval.
But it could go then to planning commission with those comments.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Then in a second, there we go. I move to continue this project to the planning commission and indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. The board is generally in support of the size, bulk, and scale of the proposed project and the general footprint and design. The board would like to see street photos of the neighborhood and views from within the property looking at the neighbors to understand privacy. The board would like to see a site section silhouette to help understand the views of the rear elevation. The board would like to see an updated, especially of the soldier course at the headers of the garage and front opening, the head of the parapet, where the windows meet the metal fascia on the front elevation, among others. The board is in support of removing the trees, given the structural issues and integrity of the trees. The board is considering the appropriateness of the height of the proposed renovation. I think that's it.
The adjacent neighbor footprints, I don't know how you picked up on the site section.
In the comment about the site section, if you can add in there, not just the landscape plan, in the site plan, that we'd also like to see a rough silhouette of where the adjacent neighbor homes begin.
Vernon, you said you wanted silhouettes of the neighbors or just the footprints?
Footprint, thank you.
Oh, thanks,
But just
okay.
like an edge, I think that's why I meant silhouette. It doesn't need to be the whole
Okay.
plan, but just
So like
an
a
edge.
partial footprint, okay.
The footprint closest to our house.
Yes, on both sides. Okay.
I'll second the motion, and then I have one comment under discussion, which is, I think one of the comments you said was the board is in support of the mass, bulk, and scale, but then we later on
About
went
the
on to
height.
say that we're still
Questioning the height.
questioning the 12-foot height. So I think that comment that you made about the mass, bulk, and scale should be written as the board is generally in support of the mass, bulk, and scale pending verification of seeing the site section and in order to confirm.
Support the height.
In order to support the
Yeah,
height.
and in that comment, and we might have you read it back, that the board is generally in support of a one-story
Yeah. Yeah.
project. So, because I think that would help the planning commission, and we're just talking about a few feet potentially or less. So let me know if that all works in that statement, or we can revise it when we approve the minutes next time.
I think we can revise it when we approve the minutes.
Okay,
I think
perfect,
we got
perfect.
it. This is
Okay.
recorded. We got it.
Great. Okay, and we have a second, so let's do a roll call.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And right at 4:15, we are starting our next item on time. This is a new item here for concept review, 1342 San Rafael, proposal to convert an existing attached two-car garage to an accessory dwelling unit and for an addition to the primary residence directly above the garage. The project requires a zoning modification for relief from front setback standards. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. Neighborhood preservation findings in Hillside Design District and sloped lot findings will be required when the project is reviewed for PDA. So welcome.
Hi, esteemed members.
Hello. We will start with staff comments, I see.
Thank you.
Chair.
So Katie's coming back in because I need to recuse myself from this item because I'm a
Would you
few
go
doors down.
Grab her in the hallway? Okay.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay, just real quick to let you know where we are with this application. After it was,
We need to wait till we have a quorum.
Thank you. They're swapping who had to recuse themselves. Yes, no, that's okay. Yes, we all live here.
I remember doing that when I was on the board in Solvang.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Welcome back. And I think you can start, I'm just going to give some context.
okay, yes, I just wanted to let you know where we're at with this application. It's a tiny bit unusual. After it was submitted, I met with the applicant and property owner, and we decided to put the application on hold instead of continuing to review it so that we could come for a concept review pretty early on. So we're looking for feedback, as usual. We're looking for your feedback on the aesthetic appropriateness of the proposed front setback encroachment in terms of how it relates to existing site development, as well as compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood, as well as any other comments you have, on the proposal in general. But once we get a feel for your, how you feel about that encroachment, it's a two-story encroachment into the front setback, then we'll decide how to move forward with the applicant. So that's where we're at with this, and with that, I'll hand it over to the applicant.
Great.
Okay.
My name is Jonathan Villegas, and with Darkman Building Design and Engineering. We are proposing this, we are proposing a junior ADU conversion of a garage and extending the second story above the garage. So we're not extending past anything that's already existing that's there. And when this development was constructed back in the 1960s, actually they only had a 10-foot setback on the front yard to begin with. So it's not like we're changing anything like that. We did kind of look at other options as far as trying to see where we could increase some square footage on the second floor. But it's on the mesa, it's facing the ocean, and that is the prime view. So that's why we wanted to do that. The existing kitchen and dining room is, back in an era where, they had, everything was much smaller, and it just doesn't fit the client's lifestyles today. So that's why they also wanted to expand it as well. So do I move everything? Or, okay, this is the first time that's happened. Okay, so as you can see, I did a rendering of kind of what it's going to look like. The existing house is a blue. It's almost a neon blue. I did provide a color board, so if you guys want to see that. So the blue is a lot softer now. The current blue that's there is pretty bright, and some might call it obnoxious, but but this one's much softer. I did propose a little bit of a darker blue for the clients, but they really kind of like that lightness to the whole structure itself. We wanted to kind of keep it so it still feels like it's part of the beach community there. We are doing some board and batten and stucco siding on there with some accoutrements to the front, which addresses that trellis that's on the living room, proposed living room, that does two things. Aesthetically, it's a little bit more pleasing than just seeing just a flat face, but also it provides some sun cover for the south-facing windows that are there. So here's the existing site plan and the proposed site plan. As you can see, we are pushing out a little bit in the back, but that fits all within the guidelines of the setbacks and the requirements, and that's just to give the current owners a master bath back there and kind of change where their master bedroom's located. These homes only have one bathroom, so it's a little bit hard to work with that. The current two-car garage has an adjacent storage and an area where there's a water heater, so we are kind of pushing a little bit of area into the crawl space, but again, not pushing out anywhere besides the current building envelope on the front part. Yeah, so we are doing the junior ADU below, so it's a very just simple open plan, more of a studio type of ADU. And we are providing a little bit of a privacy with an adjacent fence, so that way whoever happens to live there will have something, some privacy to enjoy their yard. The current second story, as you can see, the kitchen's very small. There is no real laundry room, and the living room and the dining room are extremely small there. The proposed, let's see, there we go. There's the proposed. So the proposed is pushing out the second story above the exterior of the garage, and we also did that structurally. I'm a structural engineer, because if we do push it out to halfway to the garage, then you create this sort of it's a more unstable structure that's there. So we could use and underpin the existing footings that are there, rather than adding big beams and new footings. And we do have a ceiling height issue with the bottom floor. I think we barely make the allowable ceiling height, so adding a beam in there would make it difficult to keep that in compliance. And the clients are very apt to want to keep the aesthetics of the age of the house, so they really want to keep that kind of style, very retro. The next sheet is what the existing home looks like. It's stucco and just T111 siding that's on the garage, and that's about it. So here are the elevations of the proposed addition and ADU, and also the rear master bath. And we're adding an exterior shower to the master bath out there, but they're surfers. Okay. And even the lighting is very retro, so they're kind of going with a more retro type of lighting situation. Hardly any landscaping. Basically, it's going to all stay the same how it is right now. There's a little bit of a planter in the front of the garage. We'll probably just keep that where it is for now. And there's a little bit of sod in front of it. Probably take better care of it than it is right now. But architectural details, you've seen all those before. Here's some 3D kind of perspectives, just to kind of give you a rough estimate of what it kind of looks like on the hillside there, and how it all comes together. Here's some interior renderings. I know you guys don't really care for those, but I just want to show you that they want to keep that kind of aesthetic. So the kind of that time of year, that time of the century. So, and that is it for me right now. So,
Do you quickly want to go through your site photos? I think they're the tabs at the top.
okay, yes. Let's see here. So the site photos, this was actually done for a study to look at other properties that were also in non-compliance or have possibly had a modification done to them. A few of them were on San Miguel, and some I found online, but I couldn't find I couldn't find a lot of documentation on there. So here's one that's on San Miguel. As you can see, this one actually is a 3-story addition that was done in the 90s. I actually had the pleasure of talking to the owner that has been there since the inception of this addition. And he said that, yeah, he had to go through a lot of red tape and everything for that back then, but he did get it approved. So there is a precedence for doing something like this. This is also showing from an aerial view of that. So, and this is actually a property that's about 2 doors down from our property. As you can see, it's a pretty big addition. So, and that's an aerial view of that. Here's another one on San Miguel, and they show that they have an addition over the garage, but also a small little deck that's there as well. Here's another one that is an addition over the garage. They did pare it back a little bit to have an eyebrow, a roof there over it. Another addition over garage. The aerial view of those two right there. So, and this was just looking at the different architecture. I mean, the Mesa is just riddled with it. It's very eclectic. So it's kind of funny when you say I want to keep it to whatever's in the neighborhood, but it's whatever's in the neighborhood. So it's very mishmash. But here's also one that's a smaller little cottage that has board and batten. There's several of them that had board and batten around the area as well. So and these are just showing just the variation of different architecture that's on the Mesa. And so those were those photos. Let's see, what are these ones here? So these are the existing photos, as you can see. Wow. It's, yeah, exactly. You can thank me now, so for that. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit better during a different lighting pattern there, but yeah, it can be a little obnoxious. So, just in the neighborhood, just showing what's around their properties. Backyard looking at neighbors. From the deck, looking across at the beautiful ocean. And another view looking at the ocean. And a drone view. So that's
Okay, great.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will open to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may bring a slip to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will move on to virtual comment. At this time, I have no hands raised for virtual comment on this particular item, and we did not receive any written correspondence either. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, we will start with questions. One question I have, are you planning to keep the existing railing? If you scroll up a little bit, you just showed us some of that railing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that one right there?
Right, or is this getting replaced?
We haven't really talked about that, but
Okay.
we can. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. If that makes this provable, yeah, sure, we'll replace it.
Well, is the idea right now that the fence on the first floor matches the aesthetic of what this is?
A little bit. We haven't really discussed too much what that was. I mean, I basically followed the kind of horizontal pattern on the fence, but we're not set in stone on whatever that is right now.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I was just going to clarify, I think you mentioned the reason that you're pulling the second story element completely over the garage is something structurally related. Can you
Yes.
just, okay.
Yeah, because once you break up the mass there, then it changes the whole dynamics, both seismically, wind, and also gravity loads on
Okay.
there. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And then, actually, just one more. I think you mentioned the railing. You mentioned the color and the board and batten. Are there any other changes to the exterior? I know there's the stucco with the brick wall. Any other changes to, I guess that would be it, besides the railing?
Yeah, I mean, besides what they're adding on the back end, for the addition, but that's probably going to be just stucco. So just
Okay.
to be
Okay.
stucco from there.
Great, that's it for me, thanks.
What was the approved deck railing on the original house?
I don't think they had a deck on the original house there. I think it was just a little.
I mean, what was on the archive plans? The deck is legal, I'm presuming?
Yeah, it is. I saw it legal. Well, there was a little 8.5 by 11 thing that had some
Okay,
sort of stamp
okay.
on it, but it didn't really have a lot of
All right.
details back then.
So I have a question. What would you, go back to, if you could turn to the, maybe the rendering that you did. That,
Okay.
The,
Is that the workspace? Or is it?
I
it was
believe
on-
it's the
it's
third
on the
tab.
title
Yeah.
sheet or something like that.
Oh, yeah, right.
I think it was the title sheet. You had the rendering. And so that might be a good photo to land on, so I could ask, so what would you call this style?
Well, I would probably call it a little bit of a Hampton, but not too much. I mean, it's kind of more of a, I don't know, cottage on steroids because it's a two-story type of element there. But yeah, I mean, Hampton's the first thing that comes to mind, something like that with the board and batten and the contrast of the trim and trim boards.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Okay. I will move to comments. I'm generally in support of the project. I think it's a big improvement. In my opinion, I think there's enough precedence in the neighborhood to justify the front setback, especially because it's not extending further. Curious the board's thoughts on that. The one thing kind of design-wise that sticks out is the fencing and its compatibility. And I think studying the details of, the little kind of shade structure and window proportions and things like that, I think will really help seal it in. I'm curious the rest of the board's thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I'm really familiar with this street. I drive it every day, and I've always wondered
You're right.
what's happening with the
Right.
new owners, if they're going to change the color. And I love the funkiness of the mesa, but it's definitely a lot of funk.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see the proposed changes for the materials, for the siding, and for the color. I agree. The one thing that I'm struggling with a little bit is the existing fence and the proposed, just in the rendering. I think the color and just the style of it, there's probably other options that would work
Sure.
better with the architecture. I'm supportive of the setback. I think let's see where we are. Requires a zoning modification. So I'm supportive of that, just given the context of the neighborhood and that it's already existing. The single story is already back the 10 feet. And understand, the structural reasoning and everything else, so.
Great.
So can you show us the photo of the existing front elevation and I'll make my comments with that photo up. It would help.
Oh, yes.
Maybe help me understand what my comments are. So I have a little differing opinion on the setback mod on the two-story as a stacked element, and there's a couple of reasons why. If you look at this photo in particular, and then you picture a second story right on top of it, I don't think that just the reasoning of wanting a stacked two-story wall or the best view is enough reasoning to give it's basically a 50% setback mod in the front yard on this street, because I don't see any other full two-story walls with the 50% setback on the front. And I think that's probably why staff wanted this to come for initial, if I had to guess, that's probably why you wanted comments on the architecture before staff could support that huge modification. So I'm struggling with that. And I think that you can get just as good a views by adding on behind the garage where the deck is, and then you could even get a deck over the garage possibly. And in other words, I'm not saying that the front setback can't encroach a little bit, but a full two-story stacked wall for me is aggressive. And then when you add to that at least a 3-foot corbelled trellis, I don't even know if that requires an extra mod, because architectural features are only allowed to go beyond the front face of a building 2 feet without needing their own mod, I think. I'm not sure. So
You could decrease that. Then,
but
yeah.
yours is much deeper. And it's heavy, and it's on the top of the second story, and then you've got this eyebrow that kind of comes around, and so I'm struggling with that two-story volume that close. And the reason I wanted to see this photo is because 10 feet isn't very far back. It's going to be very looming, in my opinion. I think there's plenty of room on this lot for some sort of a relief between the front, in the front yard setback between the lower and the upper level, even if you have to add a beam to do that, to support that load at that second story. I'm also struggling with some of the detailing, but I think it can be resolved, because I'm seeing cottage on steroids, as you put it. I'm seeing like almost French with the lower level roof kind of sloped down at that bay window. And then even some mid-century modern with the roof pitch and the roof of the second story right at. You can go back to that elevation so I could maybe show you what I'm talking about. That rendering, you just go back to. Yeah. So it's almost like a mid-century roof pitch with the roof, maybe could be considered cottage. I think it could be really nice, and I love the color, and I like the choice of materials. But I'm just struggling with the two-story massing, and right that close to the street with that large trellis awning, also that eyebrow trellis as well.
Can you go back to the site plan?
Sure.
And then your interior, not that our purview is on interior, but it has now some Spanish
With the
in
corbels
it.
and things.
So that's why I was trying to understand the style. I think it needs to decide kind of what it wants to be, even if you say, I love all those elements, and I want all those elements, and we couldn't decide, so we wanted them all, but they kind of have to work.
Sure.
And so my biggest issue on this is the two-story massing right at the street. I think that it needs some kind of something, and I don't know what it is. It's just,
The one thing I'll show, I've got the Google Street View open, and it shows you, your neighbor, and the next building up. And for the board to consider as to what we want next from them, you know, in my mind, already the street slopes up this way, and so they're sitting lower than their neighbors. And then this house here is already that two-story structure along. Now, I don't know if it's already at the setback or if it sits back, but it visually looks pretty similar to where these other ones are.
yeah, maybe if you could come back with other examples on this street that, of other people that have done it. I might
Within the
be
setback.
Within that much of a, like a two-story, if there were a lot of people on that street that had already established a new rhythm and a new, you
Well,
know.
on the adjacent street, I couldn't find a lot of things
On this specific-
online, yeah, I mean, it's hard without.
It's just that there's something really nice about, you can't see what we're seeing, but there's something really nice about the streetscape on this. And if we could see other examples of two stories right at the street, and then I could be convinced. But right now I'm not, I can't support it.
One thing that I think works well, I think there's a little bit less glazing on the second story element of the house 2 houses up on the street side, but there are more mature kind of street trees, and I know that they have more mature trees on the first story, almost blocking, I think it's an arbutus or two blocking that, and so I think it helps relieve a little bit of the loomingness that you would notice. Which could be something to consider. And I didn't include this in my comments, and I don't necessarily think we need to require it, but I do think a little bit of refreshed landscaping makes sense for this, just given you're rebuilding, and it could even be really minor in the front, unless we think, you know, a tree or something like that would be a good idea.
So what I've heard, though, is that there might be 2 out of the 3 of us that could be in support of this massing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's my initial take, and that's still the direction that I'm leaning. I do hear board member Sherry, though, and appreciate those comments as well, because when I first saw it, I thought, okay, usually we encourage it to be pushed back a little bit more. However, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, and I want to be mindful of what's realistic for the applicants versus what it would be a big ask from us, or for financial or structural reasons. And I think that's where my qualifications can't really help in the decision-making for that one. That's where I sit.
Well, I can tell you that if they're doing a project this big, putting a beam in the garage is not going to make or break this project. It's, for me, like I said when I started my comments, it's not enough of a justification to allow it. And it's the combination of kind of how you've chosen to kind of style it, and the proximity, and that being just a kind of, in my opinion, still a relentless 2-story wall. Like it's a significant setback relief.
So I would be in support of seeing it slightly reduced and brought in, and or relocating some on the other side where you said maybe like fill in potentially where the balcony, fill in some of this space if this can get smaller. Is that something that would also?
Yeah, and it's not, to me, it's not smaller side to side, it's more front to back.
Correct, here.
Because of the layering. It's just a layering of, and a hierarchy of massing, going from 1-story to 2-story, and then kind of working with the hill on that.
Well, they do use the deck, and they wanted to, one of the features in the dining room is to have a pass-through window where they could have a sort of an outside indoor kind of seating, because they're very conscious of, I know that you guys don't like these party decks, you know, that are out there. And so they didn't want to have a deck over the garage for that particular reason. So they already have a deck that they use, and so that's why they wanted to keep that deck there. We're happy to revisit it and how it looks, you know, aesthetically for the for the stain of the wood or the railing and all that stuff. So it kind of more meshes with the existing house or with the proposed house, and we could pare back the trellis a little bit as well. So, but
Something,
yeah,
just something. I just think the way it is now, I can't support this particular design, but I would like to support a design very similar to this.
So it's hard. I don't want to, drag out the process, and I'm trying to be really conscious of everyone's comments. I think I would like to see either restudying where the addition, either, restudy and change where some of the addition is pulled back from the setback, or there needs to, and the or needs to be very strong of some more studying and justification of why it needs to be that way, more context from that street, because again, a lot of the houses outside of that one are on an adjacent street, although I do think that they feel similar in nature of that neighborhood, but there just needs to be more justification, because this is something that typically we shy away from.
right.
So for staff, I have a question. The zoning modification, that's required regardless because it's non-conforming existing, or only if the second story sits back?
Right, it's really the second story that's
Okay.
triggering the need for the modification. The garage is non-conforming, so they can alter, convert it to the JADU. If they change windows, that sometimes triggers a mod, which we've been supportive of in the past. But the second story is really a bigger piece of that.
So, just playing the devil's advocate, what would be a setback that you would feel comfortable with? Something like
We really can't answer that question because
Right.
it depends on what it looks like.
Right.
I mean, it could be, we just recently approved a second-story addition over a garage similar to this, and it was set back not very much, but it was how it was treated.
How it's
So
presented, yeah.
It really depends on how you come together with all those details and how they work together. That's, do you have anything to add?
I think what's going to be important is a street silhouette. I think it would be helpful if it's at the angle roughly of the topography to show where this home sits next to the others. I think it would be helpful to include the 1-2 to the right that does have that second story up above.
Right.
And include 1 to the left. So that we get that overall kind of view of that, and then any other examples in the setback. And I know you've done this study of other additions. If you want to maybe say how far they are from the right-of-way, that would be helpful in this catalog for us. Any other comments I'm going to weave into?
I was just gonna add that we've even seen designs like this that we've struggled with in the past, that it's not even a 10-foot, it's further back. It's the weight, the
Right.
size, bulk and scale, and the looming nature of the
Right.
double element like that. So
Okay.
it's not just the 10-foot
Right.
to get stuck on that.
Yeah.
Just so that, or at least from my
Yeah.
perspective,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I don't think I should make the motion because I don't know how it's going to go. Because you
Okay.
guys both had different comments than me.
I know. Okay. I move to continue this project back to the full board with the following comments. The board is in general support of the project, but would like to see adjustments in the massing to reduce the overall size, bulk, and scale from the front elevation. The board discussed options to set back the second story and/or include the renovation elsewhere on the property. in order to support the second story in the setback, the board needs additional neighborhood examples of second story additions within the setback. The board requests a street elevation showing the property to the left and silhouettes of the properties two to the right. The board recommends studying the existing fence and proposed fences in both style and color. The board recommends studying front yard landscaping and potential screening to help with the size, bulk, and scale. The board is undecided in recommending relief from the front setback standards. The board is in support of the proposed colors. And the board recommends studying the architectural details to commit to an architectural style with the proposed renovations.
I'll second that motion as is.
Under discussion, I think a cohesiveness of details, because, committing to a style sometimes is hard. Maybe you want it to be a combination of cottage
okay.
and
That's fair.
mid-century,
That's
modern,
fair.
modern. So it's the what was the word?
Cohesive language.
Cohesive language of the detailing to reflect the overall aesthetic or something like that. Yeah.
I support that.
I accept that as well.
We can take a roll call.
Chair Lewis,
Yes?
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is also a new item here for, actually, you can take this back if you want. Thank you.
If you want to take back here.
Thanks. Okay, so our last item is 929 Arbolado Road. That's my description. This is a proposal to construct additions to the 2,371 square foot, two-story single-unit residence and a 413 square foot attached garage located in the Hillside Design District, consisting of a 207 square foot first floor addition, a 26 square foot addition to the second floor, a new 263 square foot third floor, a new 27 square foot addition to the carport to create a new attached garage. The project also includes a new deck, walkways, patios, lighting, roof, windows, and doors. The project requires minor zoning exception and granting a waiver for a driveway gate. The proposed total of 3,307 square feet of development on a 15,639 square foot lot is 76% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. No final appealable decision will take place today. Minor zoning exceptions are required for increased height and volume in western and eastern interior setbacks and for driveway visibility. SFDB approval of a waiver to permit an as-built driveway gate is also required as part of PDA. Neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design district and slope lot findings will be required at PDA. Are there any staff comments?
First thing I wanted to mention is that I did see some new folks enter the room. I just wanted to remind that item 5 has been postponed. So if you're here for item 5, it is not going to be heard. It's going to be continued. Just want to make sure everybody's here for item 4. All right. And for staff comments for this particular project is that the application for the first round of review was deemed incomplete, and the submittal here before you today has not been reviewed by zoning staff again. So the minor zoning exceptions are based on our first review of the letter, and because it's just here for conceptual review, any feedback, broad feedback on whether you guys would be willing to support these minor zoning exceptions if the applicants choose to pursue them on the current plan set. I'm going to leave it to the applicant to describe if they're pursuing those. If you would like to offer feedback on those, that would be very helpful. And again, for concept review, just overall broad comments on the mass, bulk, and scale, and overall design. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if you can make sure your microphones are on and everyone state your name for the record, and then you can go through your presentation.
All right, good afternoon. Jarrett Gorin from Vanguard Planning.
Good afternoon, Sergio with Vanguard Planning.
Katie Klein, RRM Design Group.
All right, so real briefly, I'll show you the neighborhood area, so get some context on this. So this is looking down at our site and our immediate surroundings, the neighbors right next to us. We're that little house tucked in right there, way in the back. Let's go to the next photo. So here's from lower down, sort of more of a downhill elevation view. Go back up, Sergio, real quick. Yeah, I just want to show you in this one, every house up here, not surprisingly, has large decks for the views and everything. And so, and this house also has a deck on the downhill side, and we're going to be, Sergio will walk you through the new deck we're doing. Okay, next. And then this is a straight down photo just to give you an idea of the size of this house compared to other houses. We're sort of the smallest house in here. A lot of these other ones have been remodeled or rebuilt, so that's why it's like that. Next. So this is a straight on view of, this is two houses down, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just breeze through these real quick. These are just some downhill views. That's two houses. That's the right next door neighbor. That's us. And then that's our neighbor on the other side. And then here's just some quick views from the street.
This is the garage.
Yeah, that's our house's garage there. That's our neighbor to the east, I think. And then that's looking to the, where is that one, Sergio? That's over to the west.
That's the house.
That's ours. And this is uphill across the street from us. You just really see a driveway going up there. And then this is the house immediately next door to us. And one thing I want to point out on this photo is when they did the work on this house, these houses come together sort of in an L shape, a lot of them up there, and the second story massing on many houses up there, especially ones that are remodels, they have a small second story element right at the intersection of the house and the garage, and we're sort of following that pattern. You'll see that when Sergio runs you through the architecture. Yeah, that's two houses down, recently remodeled, uphill from us. Yeah, so there's nothing else really significant here, and I'll let Sergio take it over, and that's the house now. So you'll see what we're doing to it.
Okay, so as you can see, this is the existing house. It's roughly about, what is it? 3,300 square feet, 3,300 square feet, and we're adding roughly 500 square feet to it. But let me go into the plans, actually. Let's go here. Okay. So this is the second level. What we're calling the second level is the main entry level, which is yeah, it's we're proposing one bedroom where it used to have two bedrooms. We're adding this little portion here, which is roughly about 100 square feet, both on the lower level and this level. And then we're adding this deck, as you can see here. There is an existing deck, but not to the size of this, but we're kind of matching the geometry of the garage, if you could see that, kind of to base our design. Let's go to the, and I'll walk you very briefly. The existing has two bedrooms on the first level. We're proposing one bedroom on the level. And, well, this is kind of flipping through. And this is that same, with two bedrooms on both sides. The other feature that we're doing is the stair that is a new addition. And you could see it here, just an open stairwell. The main design theme is to open up this whole living space by removing the demising wall between the existing bedroom, which is now the living room. And keep going down. And then the other main feature is what we're calling the perch, which is the third, or an office. It's, yeah.
The client calls
The
it the
client.
perch.
His sanctuary, I guess. But this is roughly 260 square feet. Yeah, so we're matching all the same slopes as the existing. Both ridges, garage, and the main floor, or the main roof, I should say, is going to be at the same elevation, which is about 2 feet higher than existing. And then the perch ridge is the max. We're growing it by 8 feet from existing. I think I'll stop there, and then if you want to.
Let's get to the elevations real quick.
So as you can see here, this is the carport, existing carport, that we're converting into the garage. The existing floor height, or roof height, is 12.6, and that's the portion that we're raising. And this is where you could see, as Jared was talking about, at the pivot point between the garage and the main house is where that perch is going to be added. And here's the south elevation with all glass doors, both below and above. And then the office or perch on the third floor will have an outdoor deck, a covered deck as well. The deck itself is going to be constructed of steel members support, and then so no wood there.
Do you have those renders?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. And then we're gonna just flip through these. And basically this is the entry with the garage, and this is with the perch right at the intersection spot. The colors, as you can see, is very, simple, very, I guess, Santa Barbara with white smooth stucco. We're not going with the red tile, but we're using painted metal to mimic Corten steel. The benefit of this is that it won't run and stain the walls and all of that, but it'll maintain itself, and it's a great fire-rated material.
On that,
Age
real
as well.
quick, so the client's done some houses with actual Corten roofs, and with the white stucco, it is going to stain it, and they kind of knew that in advance. And they didn't want to do a Spanish tile roof, but they also didn't want to do like a standing seam metal roof. So we looked around for different materials and found this one, which it looks like rusted corrugated metal, but it actually is a paint finish that's on there that looks like that. And when you're at distance, it looks like rusted corrugated metal, and it picks up kind of the same color as Spanish tile roofs have, and it's got a pretty low reflectivity index, but it's durable, it's fire rated, and it'll wear really well and won't stain the side of the house.
Yep. This is the color palette. Very neutral. The natural concrete board forms. I think that's about it. And then we could go into the landscape drawing, maybe some broad.
So this is the tree protection plan. There are existing oaks on site. They're labeled and we have images, and the client is working with an arborist in construction. So we have our tree protection notes there, and this just calls out all the existing trees. We're not removing anything. We're keeping everything. And then our landscape plan, the driveway pavers are staying, but the front entry, we're adding gravel and these really interesting stairs down for access down the side there. Currently, it's just a large drop off over there. So we are adding these board form retaining walls. I'll show you an elevation in a minute. or we can go to it now. So these are the steps down that we're proposing with the board form and some interesting cacti, because it is just one big blank wall there. So we're kind of creating a cactus wall. So those are some images of the plant material we're proposing. And if you go back up, you can see some images we have of the stairs. So those are the Core 10. That's kind of the idea there for the stairs down. And then it's really steep down the side. So we're just doing timber, like that image there with gravel. And then is it the east side? We're just doing stabilized earth, not DG, just basically dirt that has a stabilizer in it to be careful of the roots of the oaks. And then we have interesting detailing at the front entry and the back of just concrete with a top cast finish. If you look to our images, you'll see to the right how we're creating banding and with the different top cast of concrete and colors. And then also we're incorporating Core 10 into the landscape as sort of acting as pavers in the backyard there. And it is covered, so it won't get too hot. So that porch, but it's under the deck, the back, all of that concrete there. You can see the dashed dark line is where the deck above is. And then we have this interesting idea for bench seating kind of on the cliff of right there. But we're adding a little retaining stone, stack stone retaining wall there, so the drop off isn't large. And we'll just be stabilizing the slope planting. It drops off there where it's a lighter green. So we're keeping everything really naturalistic, sandstone, wood, corten, and concrete to match the architecture of the walls. And the planting, you can see a list there and images. It's a lot of cactus and native plants. And the client doesn't want to do any lighting, so keeping it dark. And that wraps up landscape. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. We will move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. And at this time, I do have several slips. So up first, we'll have Earl Wilcox come up to the podium. And Mr. Wilcox, you will have 2 minutes to speak. And please make sure your speaker is on.
Let's push that. Okay. We live at 960 Roble, which is directly down the hill from this location. And next to our property on our right-hand side, there is a drainage ravine, and the water comes from up above us, and we believe it crosses over Arbolado, or underneath Arbolado, on the other side on the uphill side of this property. And so our concern is, how will this change and the landscaping and the construction affect the drainage? During the wintertime this last year, we had enormous amounts of water come down that hillside, and it's a real concern for anybody in that area. And our 960 Roble, in that area, the water comes down into the street, goes into a drainage, and then drops down again. And right there at the curve in our street, it floods every time it rains. So we're just very concerned about how this will impact the water drainage in that area.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Beverly Trial up. Please come up to the podium. Ms. Trial, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hello. I'm a neighbor from a couple of blocks away. First, the positives about this project is that it's only 76% of the maximum FAR, which I really appreciate, because there are other places that are much bigger than that. However, I am strongly opposed to allowing a third addition, even though it it doesn't go entirely across, but it's still a good chunk that I, as a non-architect, see as being a third floor. And I can see it taking up some of the beautiful views from the people who are next door to it. And also, it sets a bad precedence for other homes that are closer to us. As I say, we're only a couple blocks away. And having any kind of views be obstructed is bad for people's good feelings of being in the Riviera, and also I feel that it lowers overall our property values. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you state your address for the record?
1218 High Ridge Lane.
Thank you.
Next, we will have Elaine Trial up. Please come up to the podium. You will also have 2 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Trial. I live at 1218 High Ridge Lane, just a few blocks away from 929 Arbolado. I frequently drive and walk past this property, and I am opposed to allowing the addition of a third story. Not only would that raise the roof line by 8 feet, which will be very noticeable from the street, but it is a bad precedent in an era where so many people want to build bigger and taller. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we will have Tom Fogel. Please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. So I live next door at 945, directly to the west. I'm fully in approval of the project. I've spent a lot of time with the owner, and he's been very gracious about sharing his plans with me. There are two concerns I have. Jared will remember 945 Arbolado, the disaster that was, and the chaos it wreaked in the neighborhood. The extended construction over 6 years, the destruction of the property, the alteration of the drainage pattern, the flooding of the property below, which continued, by the way, last month with the last rains. Again, it flooded the property below. So I share the concern about making sure that the drainage patterns are secure. The other issue is that neither my house nor the original house as it currently exists would have been built as they are today, given the setback between the two properties. I mean, I could reach out and shake hands across the property line. And so I'm a bit concerned about the stairway on the west side of the property and what will happen encroaching on the property border. I haven't seen a final survey on the property to establish where the true property lines are. Right now, there's a bunch of banana plants and a drainage ditch and a culvert, actually. The owners have shared with me a lot of the information regarding the planning, but I haven't seen a landscape plan. A lot of overgrowth, a lot of underground pipes that sort of come out of nowhere that drain the property right now. So I would like to see a much clearer understanding not only of the property borders and also of the drainage patterns to secure that there won't be issues in the future like there have been because of approved plans that shouldn't have been approved previously. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we will move on to virtual public comment. At this time, I do not see any hands raised, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this particular item. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, we will move to questions. Does anyone want to start us off?
You want to go? I would always go to public comments first. To the applicant, if you can provide any daylight on communication that you've had on the drainage patterns and how you might have addressed them, and then go over the setbacks with us. And then one of my follow-up questions is, that third floor plate heights. And because we're here for the MZE, which requires a height and a volume, is that?
I also feel like for clarity's sake, we should call it the second floor. There's a basement, a first floor, and a second floor, so.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, let's start with the drainage question then.
Okay, so, I mean, drainage really isn't in the purview of this board, but I can answer the question for everybody's benefit that's here. Is, we're a full Tier 3 stormwater project, so the city's scrutinizing our drainage on here. We're gonna have a full civil engineering package when we get past the concept stage. And, with Tier 3, we're not allowed to increase drainage off of the site, and our drainage improvements are probably going to reduce drainage off of this site. We're not adding a whole lot of impervious surfaces either. I mean, basically, we're not significantly expanding the footprint of the house or adding large areas of paving or pools or anything. So I think we'll be able to address everybody's drainage concerns as we get into the next stages. But yeah, we're aware that that's a concern. We had a neighborhood meeting last week that several people came over and attended, and they were talking about drainage, not so much with this property, but just in general in that area. And I guess there is some sort of a ravine that's nearby that's sort of famous in the area for what it does. So that's the issue on drainage. On the heights, this is a pretty modest addition to this house, and it is tucked into the roof, so you don't have it's sort of set into the ridges of both other roofs. The house itself it's a single-story house, and I think, what is it, the existing height's like 12 feet, and it's
12.6.
And what's the final height gonna be of that lower ridge?
It's going to be 20 of the upper ridge.
Yeah, the upper ridge.
21.6.
Of at the top of
At
the
the top.
perch. Yeah, so even at the second story addition, we're looking at a maximum of 21 feet, which is really not significant for a 2-story portion of a structure. And
Did you bring a site section, or can you show us on the elevations?
we do have that. Why don't you pull that up?
And so then I'm
Yeah, I think on
confused
page
about the
19.
MZE height increase that was stated at the beginning of the project that we're supposed to be.
It's the gate.
Oh, there is no more gate in this project. The client doesn't want a gate anymore, so we're not doing a gate.
Okay.
Sebastian, what else are we missing on this MZE?
Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate it as I did earlier for staff comment that these plans, we haven't reviewed them again. The MZEs were based on the initial plans that were reviewed. So I was leaving it up to the applicant to describe the minor zoning exceptions that they're now pursuing. And if, again, we're here for conceptual review, broad comments. The 3 zoning exceptions that were needed from the initial plan review were for visibility at driveways and intersections. Another one was for increased height and volume in the eastern and western setbacks. And then there was consideration, design feedback on a waiver from the Public Works Director for the gate located less than 20 feet from the front lot line. So I'll leave it
Yeah,
up to
so
that.
I'll address those other two. So the height and volume increases in both of those setbacks have to do with the changing the pitch of the roof. So we are increasing the ridge height slightly to get a little bit steeper roof pitch, and that affects the height and volume in the setbacks on each side. So that's what we're talking about. Plus also,
And that's just at the garage and the deck, correct?
At the garage and this eastern
and on the
side here,
eastern
this
side
little
too.
portion here, if you can see, this is the setback. So they're talking about this little area, this little sliver here.
So, but
which
then
is the
also on
same
the
footprint.
other side as well.
On
right.
the other side would be this garage portion.
And Sergio, also the little addition we're doing down there is going to increase volume in the setback.
Right.
That
The
little bump
roof
out.
part of it,
Yeah,
right?
and we're doing that just to, not have the side of the house jogging all over the place.
Right.
It's a pretty narrow house, so we just want to keep it simple and in one plane.
And so what was the driving factor for the roof pitch change from existing?
Well, one of the main ones is so at the perch area, which is the kitchen, we're maintaining the same floor or plate height there. And everywhere else is vaulted. And so in order to have the kind of glass or connectivity to the perch from the living space to there, the vaulted roof raised, I think it was about 2 feet or something like that.
To make this make sense,
Yeah.
on
To
the
make this-
inside of the house,
But-
the bottom half of the wall of that upper office actually has clear story through to the vaulted great room.
Got it.
And so we needed a slightly steeper pitch for that. And also with the metal roof, we don't want it to be too shallow with that. But that's the section.
But then also, I mean, the garage is at a skewed angle, and so to be able to match both roof pitches for constructability purposes, we had to change the pitch slightly, raising it up so that it matches and there's a nice ring to connect. So that was another factor.
Okay.
Feet or max height. Okay, I think we're clear, and it's just those little sections. And are you replacing the entire roof?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
And you're replacing it with the Core 10 roofing that you provided?
The Core 10 apparent roofing,
Corten-
the non-staining Core 10.
Right. Okay. All right, yeah, and you're 21 actually overall, and then the visibility is
Well,
really
this
a
is the-
non-kind of an issue, and the gate is gone.
This section here kind of tells the story from the living room, looking into the perch up here above, and then the stairs coming down into the lower or basement level and into the landscaped area, which is underneath the deck. And this is the entry level here.
Do you have any other questions?
Sorry.
That's okay, we can come back. One question I have, so the examples that you showed, and typically when you've got the second or, two-story structure at the corner, it kind of holds the corner visually, but this one is set back a little bit. Was there any study of that being proud so that you see a two-story structure, at your entry point?
So have sort of the vertical box mass of that second story area protrude past the inside corner there so that you read the full 2 stories. No, we didn't really look at doing that. We do have the entry, which comes right up against that, and that makes that a little bit challenging because then the whole entry has to move, and then it has to move the stairs and everything else. I think that we really want this second story element to sort of be subordinate rather than being like the feature at the corner. So I think that's the approach that we're taking with that. Oh, and another thing that's a little strange there is this isn't a 90-degree house.
Right.
So it'll get kind of tricky if that did protrude to resolve that angle.
Okay.
Because I think the neighbor's doing the full height.
One other question then, and maybe let me read my labels here, but the posts that are holding up, what are the deck on the back? So those material and sizes, those are exposed steel, is
Steel,
that right?
mhm,
Okay. Do you know how large those are?
The posts themselves?
roughly.
4 inches.
Okay.
Again, we're still going through structural coordination, so that may or may not grow.
Okay.
We do have Y flanges on top, at the whole perimeter, and then also tying back into the house there.
Okay. Board Member Sherry, any questions?
Yeah, can I see the front elevation again, please?
This render, or?
The elevation, like the 2D elevation.
Scroll back up, right. All right. Here it is. So you see the skew of the garage coming into, this is the front door here.
So what you're doing is you're raising the plate at the second level, and that's what you're asking for the
They're raising the pitch of the first floor
Of this.
roof, which is what is impacting.
Which is these
Just the
little,
pitch.
Just the pitch.
So what's going on the right-hand side with that window on the right, that header height is lower than the front door header existing that way? Because it looks like if you were leaving the plate and just raising the pitch, then those headers would be the same. So I'm trying to figure out if it looks like there's a lot of mass between the headers of that window on the right and the plate. And it doesn't look like that from the photo?
yeah, okay.
We're not raising the plate, so that window would actually have a lower header than the other things. All the headers aren't exactly uniform across, but we're not changing the plate of this house. It's the ridge which increases slightly to give us more of a pitched roof with the same plate height.
So you're saying that
Do we have it in
Sorry.
the floor
You're
plan?
saying
Sorry.
that,
Maybe
Go back to
I'll
this.
jump in to clarify before, the plate is getting raised here, because we're trying to match this guy. We are raising the plate height
Okay,
by
I
2
take
feet.
everything back.
Just to be everybody clear.
So is the ridge line has stayed the same?
No, the
and the
ridge,
plate
so if the ridge and the plate height together, they're moving up 2 feet in this main portion of the area. At the garage, the plate height is matching the same plate height as the new, but the pitch there is going up to further to match the ridge on that. So there's multiple.
so you're saying the garage already has the high plate, and you're just raising the plate of the house to match the existing garage?
No.
They're raising both of them.
We're raising
You're
both.
raising everything,
Yeah. And then the pitch of the garage is getting a little bit skewed.
and you're raising everything because why?
To provide a decent volume inside the house. It's a really small house. Like, could you show the section through the side of the house?
What-
The short section. Yeah, that one. So the house is, what's our width on that thing? It's like 16 feet or something like that. It's a small space, and to give it like the open, airy feel and to get the more light in from the south and have the views, we're raising the plate so that we can get that lofty feel in there. It's not a very big space, and we think it benefits from that. And again, I just go back to the overall heights of this house. Like we're at 21 feet through all 3 levels with the additional second story on there.
And so can I see the backside, the ocean side elevation again in 2D, please? So you're raising the height, but you're not raising the header of the doors, or no, you are doing that as well. And those doors are 8 feet?
No, 7.
Okay,
And it's 8 foot to 9'6".
okay. Okay, that's my question. And then, one other question, because the neighbor touched on, or somebody touched on this, is that they thought that the perch was going to impinge on somebody's view. Not that that's our purview. I mean, unless there's a view corridor easement on this property, then if it meets the zoning ordinance, our job is to look at whether the applicant has done the best they can to minimize the effect of the neighbor, of view loss of the neighbor. But the neighbor looking here, the neighbor to the left is, where's their house?
Sir,
And
pull up the,
can you maybe pull
one
up
of
the
our
aerial?
aerials. Yeah, pull up that straight down aerial.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think this really demonstrates it all. We're set
okay.
behind both of our next door neighbors.
There's nobody's view is going to be affected by this perch. Okay.
It's geometrically impossible.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
that clear to everybody in the audience or whoever was listening. That's all my questions. Oh,
And in
go ahead.
addition, the trees here, the existing oaks,
Yeah,
the
I see that.
massive trees are going to be covering, or
Okay,
it can be in sync with it as well.
Okay, we will move to comments. Board Member Anderson?
Well, I don't need site footprints because we've got the Google, but the neighbor conversations, do you want to shed some light on neighborhood, being a good neighbor? That was one of my other, like, questions.
Sure. Yeah, so we brought invitations around to all of our nearby neighbors. And when was our meeting? It was Tuesday last week? Or
Yes,
so?
last Tuesday, yeah.
So several neighbors came by. Mr. Fogel couldn't make it. He was out of town. So he's our immediate neighbor to the west. What's David, our neighbor on the other side, was there and very supportive of everything, liked what we're doing to upgrade the house. He's working with our client to like change their fence because they don't like the chain link fence that the previous owner put up. And his house doesn't have any windows that really look our way. That's like the back wall of his primary bedroom. And he kept telling us, let's put some more landscaping so you don't have to look at my blank wall. His house is really attractive though. I don't think we mind. And then some neighbors, the immediate downhill neighbor, Janet, came by and she liked everything we were doing. She was one of the ones that was talking about drainage issues and all, not necessarily specific to this property, but she talked a lot about that. And then neighbors uphill from across, it's not in this photo, but I think uphill to the right in this photo, they were interested in that second story. Yeah, them right there. They were interested in the second story addition. They said they didn't really have a significant view across this property, had sort of like some intermittent views between trees, and they wanted to see how that was going to affect them. They didn't seem overly concerned, and they didn't come down to comment today. And then one other person came by. What's that guy's name?
Right here, this house is still.
Oh yeah, he just wanted to see what was going on, and he didn't really have any comments or questions. He just says he likes to go in houses when they're open, so.
Right?
Lots of people, I know a lot of people who do that. So, yeah, he came by and basically just met our client and us. So that was the extent of our neighborhood meeting and outreach.
Awesome.
Can you go to the landscape plan and show us the connection there to the neighbor on the page left? And so there'll still be screening plant, is that correct? Okay.
There's existing significantly sized giant birds of paradise that we're protecting. We're essentially just making it walkable. It's just a huge slope right now.
And that stairway is at grade.
Correct. We're not grading.
And that second floor, the perch, is a good amount of ways from that setback, at least 12 feet or more. Oh, no, it's a lot more. Okay. So, do you know what it is?
I could go
Yeah,
to
pull it up on the roof plan.
I don't think it's a issue.
So the setback here, the 10-foot setback, that's this dash line.
Oh, yeah, so you're 15.
Yeah, 15 plus.
Okay, cool.
At the shortest point.
All right, thank you.
Did you have comments? Okay, we'll start on this side. Board Member Sherry, no comments? Okay. Board Member Graffiti?
No, I'm in support of the project. I think it's a modest, really, in the grand scheme of things, a modest project, and there's a lot of great elements. I think you went above and beyond in having discussions with the neighbors. Again, private views are not in our purview. Water management, we want to make sure obviously it's there, but that's not something we're overseeing, and so I appreciate some of the concerns, but I think generally you've done a great job to work with your neighbors, and landscape plan looks great too. So yeah, I'm in support.
Yeah, I agree. I think the general size, bulk, and scale, I think even raising the plate height and the roof is very modest and worth support for the zoning modification. I think the perch is very modest in size. I think you did a great job of setting it into the roof to reduce the overall bulk and also the height for any neighbors. And it's tucked in on the side, which is what we sort of recommend as much in the middle. I think there's some room for either architectural detailing and stuff for us to, see and develop on, especially the front elevation and then that rear one. But the property, slopes down. Right now, I think you're quite dependent on the landscaping, which looks nice in the front, but it's otherwise a very just blank wall. So worth taking a look at or seeing how that entry kind of expands. And yeah, in general support. Any comments?
Yeah, I as well agree. I think that the landscaping with the style and materials is working conceptually right now with the Core 10 roofing and the cactus and the board form concrete. I think that's headed in the right direction.
Okay, great.
One question I had was actually at the next review, if you could bring a picture of a home that has that roofing material on it, just out of curiosity to see, just because I'm not familiar with it.
Sure.
Okay.
I'd like the board's thoughts on whether this could go to consent for the next review. Yeah, okay. Yes. Great. Okay. Then I move to continue this project indefinitely to the consent calendar and it's a staff hearing officer. Who does it go to?
Oh, yeah, so they are not pursuing modifications, they're only
Got it.
pursuing minor zoning exceptions.
Okay.
So those are, minor zoning exceptions are actually under purview of the board. You do approve them. So if you want to give feedback, I believe the ones that were still active for this plan set were for the increased height in the eastern and western setbacks. I'll have the applicant confirm any of the other MZEs.
That's it. Okay. So I move to continue this project indefinitely to the consent calendar with the following comments. The board is generally in support of the size, bulk, and scale of the proposed project and the architectural language. The board can support the minor zoning exceptions for the height increase in the setback. It is minor and still keeps appropriate plate heights and scale and connects the overall consistency of the home. The board is in support of the perch and appreciates its recess into the roof. The board looks forward to seeing architectural details and material palettes and requests photo examples of the roofing material on other built projects.
I will second that motion.
Okay. We can do a roll call.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry, Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
And then just to the applicants, I'll just wait for your resubmittal before routing around your package. So just let me know. Feel free to shoot me an email when you resubmit. All right, thanks, guys. And Jim, can you switch the screens for me? And again, to reiterate,
That item 5 is removed from the agenda.
correct. So item 5 is continued indefinitely to the next full board hearing, whenever that is.
All right. So that is the end of our single-family design board meeting for June 3rd, 2024.
Thank you all.
Yes.